Come on. Come on, come get it. How do you know? How's it going? Wellness is a huge, I guess, topic that I've been interested in for a long time. For me, I think about the traditional kind of like three pillars of wellness. You've got physical health, mental health, and spiritual. I consider those the three pillars. If you go to other wellness institutes in universities and whatnot around the world, they could have up to 8, 9, 10 different dimensions of wellness, but I think the base is right there. I also think about the SEAL Fit program. Who is it? Mark Divine. Mark Divine came up with this SEAL Fit program, ex-SEAL, and he talks about the 5 mountains of self-improvement, and they're definitely in order you go in, and physical is first, right? If physically you're not in good shape, your brain and your mind is a part of your body that supports mental health, and then mental health supports emotional health, up through the different mountains. So physical health, foundational. For me, my personal physical health wasn't great when I was still married and my kids were young and I had a full-time career. I started volunteering. I just really didn't make the time to take care of my physical health. But then as my kids got a little older, I got a little bit more time. I went through a divorce. I only had kids half the time. I had more time to do what I wanted, when I wanted. I started getting things in order. And there's a lot of components to that. I'm not going to get into all pieces of that today. I'll probably do a separate video on that at some point in time. The part I want to come back to today is one of the foundations of physical health for me, especially when I was getting started, that I believe is something that everyone, or most everyone can do, is walking. My physical fitness journey on the exercise side started with walking, and just the simple habit of getting out and getting some motion, being better than none, was enough to get me to that first plateau. And there was a few aspects to it. In my case, I think I was still married at the time. Again, my time was freeing up and we had just gotten a dog. So I made a commitment to walking the dog on a regular basis, and that helped me establish the habit, right? Now there was somebody else, another living creature, whose well-being was dependent also on me doing the right thing for my well-being. So that was something that made it a lot easier. And another thing for me in terms of walking that helped it be effective was I just instinctively thought, well, I will go out and I will go for a walk right when I'm done eating. So part of the benefit here is it's twofold. Number one, you're raising your metabolism when the food hasn't been turned into fat and stored yet. So your body is going to burn some of that and be more efficient, and you're not going to be adding on to the pounds. So that's the first piece. Another piece that makes walking after meals very effective, it is your daily cue. Now I eat, I go for a walk. This is what I do. It becomes a habit over time. For me, it was a hard habit to fall out of, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm trying to get back there. But in other words, it's a cue. It's like having a regular time. Like I always go to the gym after work, before work, on lunch. Walking after every meal became, here is something I'm doing every day. I'm eating every day. Now I'm attaching walking to it, which is a positive health benefit for me. And I think the third thing that I really look to in terms of walking after every meal comes down to the fact that when we eat, it takes, say, 15, 20 minutes for the neurochemical makeup of your body to tell your brain, hey, I'm full. I don't need any more food. Before that, you still have this desire to keep eating for pleasure's sake, because if you're like me, you're a good cook, or you choose good food and you like to eat, and or you want to make sure you eat enough. So that delay in signaling, if you interrupt that and you pair it with the, I'm going to watch my portions, and when you've eaten your allotted portion and you maybe skip dessert and you go out for a walk during that period of time where you normally would have kept shoveling it in until your brain caught up with your body and said you're full, you're interrupting that pattern. Now you're going out and you're doing something beneficial for your physical health and giving your brain time to catch up to your stomach. By the time you get back from your walk, you realize how full you are. You've moved a little bit, you've gotten going, you're feeling energized, and you do not want to eat because you just walked and you just did something positive. You don't want to ruin that by piling on and eating more dessert. And your brain knows, yes, the stomach has told me I am now full. I don't need to eat anymore. So walking after meals, if you want to start with one habit, do that. And if you can't walk, let's say you're in the city and you've got breathing issues and the pollution is bad for you, find something you can do inside. For me, it was walking. And I think for a lot of people, walking outdoors, even if it's in the city, is beneficial. You get the visual stimulation of the terrain going by you can be mentally soothing as well. Getting fresh air, getting into a different context, a different environment instead of sitting in your home can be very beneficial. So this is my number one recommendation. If you're looking to start somewhere, set a habit of walking after every meal. So as I said, in my fitness journey, walking after every meal, foundational. Did it for years. It got to the point, it was nearly compulsive. It was a habit. I didn't have to think about it. When I was done eating, I wanted to go for a walk because it helped me feel better. I got a break, got fresh air, all that jazz. Over the last, and it can be challenging in the winter, but it can happen. For me, over the last, I'd say year or so, I've kind of transitioned a little bit to wanting to spend more time doing other things, right? Like I want to create more videos. I want to write more. And if I'm walking and running and swimming and lifting weights all the time, I love all that stuff. It supports my mental health, but I was ready. I had reached a plateau on the physical mountain where I felt if I got no further than this, I am healthy. This is going to sustain a long life. I wanted to focus more on mental aspects. So when I used to be running in the mornings, now instead I'm reading and writing, trying to work on creating content and videos. Long story short, winter also set in, and now some of my physical stuff is starting to slip, and I didn't even realize it, but I had gotten away from walking after every meal, and I decided I needed to do something to get back into that and wanted to figure out how I could blend that with more of the mental activities. When I'm walking, I like to listen to short YouTube videos, like 15, 20 minutes, or podcasts, things I can start and finish within the context of my run. And that's great. It's hard to take notes too much. So I dabbled with like voice recording and making transcripts of things. But then it's also hard to mix the two. You can't be listening to a podcast and taking voice notes while you're walking and paying attention to what's going on. It gets hard. So I do more of the listening when I'm out, whether it's audiobooks, podcasts, that sort of thing. But I had no way to create. And I'm also feeling like I'm nearly 50 years old. I've consumed a lot of content in a lot of areas. I am at a point where I need to consume less and create more. And I'd gotten maybe a little bit soft and didn't want to be out walking in the snow and the cold, and it takes time to get ready for it. So I got an ad one day for a walking pad, and I decided that's what I need. I've got a smallish house. It's about 1,200 square feet. No room for like a home gym. I've got some adjustable dumbbells and an adjustable kettlebell, yoga mat, stuff like that. No room for a full treadmill, but I do have room for a walking pad. I measured it out. Fits in my kitchen. I did my research. I got one that was highly recommended. Did a little shopping around, found out getting the C2 walking pad directly from the manufacturer was like $100 cheaper to get it shipped to my house than to go buy it at a store. So I did my research and I got it. And so far, I'm pretty happy with it. The device itself folds in half and I can wheel it underneath my bed and wheel it out when I want. For me, I use it enough. I just leave it out all the time. I've made it a habit. It's pretty solid. It's got a remote control. Like the device itself, no complaints. If you're going to look into it, I suggest you do your research and find out, like, do your measurements. Is it going to fit? That sort of thing. So getting back to it being useful, I am back to walking more frequently, especially after meals. Again, I'm getting back into that habit. And also first thing in the morning was always a good exercise thing for me. So now I've gotten into a habit first thing in the morning. I'll get myself something to drink, wash up, get dressed a little bit, and put on some good walking shoes. And I'll get on my walking pad and I'll queue up like, I don't know, 10 different articles on my laptop. And I can kind of hold my mouse and have my keyboard right there at the ready, my mouse at the ready, and I can be reading articles and taking notes in Google Keep while I'm walking. So I can, hold my mouse to scroll down the web page. I can kind of rest on the counter and type with one hand enough. I've also played around with Windows has accessibility tools for voice. So you can do dictation in any app. I know Chrome has some of that as well. And like Google Docs, I've done some editing, like not just transcribing, but editing, including removing words, all that fun stuff. But Windows itself has accessibility tools in terms of voice dictation. They've got ones for mouse control where it will divide your screen up into like 9 squares. You tell it to zoom in on one, and it will put the 9 squares just in that one, so you can progressively narrow in more and then tell it to click once the mouse is exactly what you want to click on. So the tools are amazing. I'm still working through what works for me. Definitely reading articles and taking notes at the same time I've gotten down. I'm getting better at transcribing. Being able to watch like a short 10-15 minute YouTube video instead of just listening to it while I'm walking, that's beneficial. I've even gotten Rocky involved in the act, as he was saying. I haven't done it much. I don't know how much he likes it. I worry a little bit about his paw getting kind of pinched at the back. I don't think it's a huge concern. I don't think I will do it a lot for him or he would like it a lot, but it might be good to get him to do it as a trick, to get his heart rate up a little bit here and there. So yeah, from a wellness perspective, that is my take on walking as a foundation for physical health. And if you're like me and it's become a habit and maybe you've fallen off or maybe you've got time constraints, I'm a big fan of walking pads. Definitely. I think the one thing I didn't mention is also meetings at work, depending if your walking pad is kind of loud, you'd have to experiment, like if WebEx Messenger or Zoom or your microphone can filter out some of that as background noise and still allow you to talk. If you're talking a fair amount, you can get away with it. Or if it's a meeting where you're listening more, there's tons of tools for transcribing and summarizing what's going on in meetings. You can take some notes on the side, but that's another area where you can get your walking in while you're working. So thanks for listening. Have fun out there. Be safe when you're walking, but absolutely do it. Highly recommended. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the comments.